Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome back again for the evening edition. I'd like to say a very big thank you to those who have joined and those who are yet to join us. Okay, so thank you very much. I can see Augustine, I can see Benjamin, I can see Philbert. So thank you all for joining. I know others will join in the course of the delivery. So without much ado, I would like to introduce our speaker for tonight. So our speaker for tonight is named Mr. Asase Courage Komla. He is a business developer, business strategist, and he does more of enterprise support. So Mr. Asase Komla is a managing director for Whole North Hub, a digital innovation and entrepreneurship support hub in Ghana. He has 4 years of experience working in the innovation hub space. Over the last 2 years, he has designed, co-designed, and trained organizations and startups and other organizations in the innovation hub space. He has experience in project management, business modeling, innovation, management operation, and business development. He has also led implementation and strategy briefs on partner projects with Ghana Tech Lab, Mastercard Foundation, MEST Africa, Reach for Change, and he is also a fellow of the Impact Program Designers Lab. So without much ado, I would like to say a very big thank you once again to Mr. Courage Komla Jidepo for giving us this honor to have him here and also to share his knowledge on our topic, design thinking. So Mr. Courage, please, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for being on this space, and with much respect, please, this is your platform and we are ready to listen to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ernest. Thanks for the introduction. And a very good evening to all the participants who are on the call tonight, and even those who join us later on. I think the session allows me a 1 hour time, so I'll try as much as possible to do my talk within 30 minutes, and then I'll leave the rest of the session for interactive questions. This is not going to be a lecture, it's going to be more of explanations using practical occurrences and questions that I'll take from the plenary if anybody wants to ask any questions. So we are doing design thinking, and once we delve into the subject matter, I'm sure everybody will be able to follow through and understand exactly the relevance of design thinking and why we think that whether as leaders, as business people, as students, as whatever you do, design thinking should be at the core of all our thinking processes. Basically, design thinking, if you listen to it as a term or a concept, you probably might be thinking that it's something as a practical, something like a theoretical subject matter, but it is a way of life. So once we go through, I'm sure everybody would come to the realization and appreciation of what we're exactly saying about on design thinking. So I would, and if you have the slides with you, I don't mind if you can project for me.
Okay, I'm coming. Let me get it. Okay, so please, can you all see my screen? Please, can you see my screen? Hello? Please, can you all see my screen?
Okay, thank you. So design thinking, when we talk about design thinking, basically we are talking about human-centered design. Human-centered design is like the mother body. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you well.
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Hello, Courage. So looks like you are off. We can hear you. Okay, I'm sure his call dropped. Please, he will join shortly. Okay, so he said he's trying to join back. So please, let's be patient. He will join shortly.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, Carrie, can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I had challenges using my MacBook, so I've switched to my phone. So sorry for that break. So once we talking about design thinking, we are saying the bigger umbrella of human-centered design. Now, what this means is that whatever project program you are designing, the thought process must have a way to think that what would be the impact of this particular project on the people who are going to be the final users. Basically, that's like the layman's approach to design thinking. So under human-centered design, we are looking at design thinking itself as a key criteria. We are looking at creativity and innovation. And please, next slide. So what then is design thinking? What exactly is the key term design thinking? I think most of us on this call probably might have heard of the term design thinking, what it is. So we are saying that it's an interaction design that is non-linear and it's an iterative process. So what it means is, when we say something's iterative, it means that it's a continuum. You can work on it and be adding different layers till you find the fine-tuned part of what you're looking for. So it's iterative. And for users to understand, to challenge assumptions and redefine problems and create innovative solutions to prototype and test. So another keyword, prototype and test. It means that the thing is iterative, it is continuum. The thing can be done using the least viable option, which is prototyping. and then also you test. So you want to see how best this solution can be usable among those who are the defined users. And it is most useful to tackle down problems that are ill-defined or unknown. And as next one. So in design thinking, there are 4 thematic things that you'd have to complete for you to, if you want to test whatever idea or solution you are bringing for using the design thinking framework. There are 4 key things that you have to consider. Number 1, we are saying that there should be discovery. There should be there should be discovery of a problem. So you discover that people using XYZ lane to maybe class have a problem using this particular footpath. So you've discovered a problem on campus. Now, in that discovery, you need to define the problem you've discovered with a defined scope. And then once you define the problem, you create probable solutions. We call them ideations. So you ideate for the solutions for the problem you've discovered. And then you prototype and test. So you go through these 4 thematic themes: discovery, define, ideation, prototype, and test. So that is the last part, which is what? Testing whatever solutions you've been able to, using the people who are your end users as what? The people who are going to use them, and how comfortable or useful that solution would be for them. So definition, discovery, definition, ideation, prototype, and testing. So these are the 4 key things that you have to pass through, or these are the key things that you'd have to test with every design thinking principle for all solutions you have. Next one. So why should we bother ourselves going through the concept of design thinking? Why is this concept necessary? Someone will ask. There have been several ways of actually tackling solutions or bringing solutions forth. So we're from all of a sudden, we're from this school of thought that we need to use design thinking as a way of actually tackling solutions. So the why, we are saying that it gives you a perspective to better understand your unmet needs as a people, or the people you are creating for. Know that whether you are a leader or an entrepreneur, you are leading on behalf of people. So there's people who are expecting that you bring solutions forth to their problems as a leader. Number 2, if you're an entrepreneur, you are creating or building a product for a defined market. So whatever product you are building for a defined market, the people you are building for are expecting that the product actually meets their unmet needs. So design thinking is not designed for people who are only in entrepreneurship. You can be a leader because there are people behind that you are leading, and they're expecting that there should be solutions that are defined for the undefined problems. Now, we are saying it better understands the unmet needs of customers, the people you are creating for. It reduces the risk with launching new ideas, products, and services. Now, one of the things that if you ever happen to be an entrepreneur or a startup person, is the fact that people define problems and build solutions using their personal biases. There's a term we use in product development called MVP, minimum viable product building. And in an MVP, we have a subset of MVP called the concierge MVP. What does that mean? What it means is that you want to build a product for a defined customer, and before you launch the actual product, you prototype a particular part to see if this will fly with the customers before you go out there to launch the main part. We call it the concierge MVP. Now, we are saying that whenever you are putting any problem through the design thinking process, the discovery, the ideation, the definition, prototyping, and testing, it reduces the risk with launching products and services that will not become accepted on the market, or it reduces the risk of having solutions that will not meet the unmet needs of the people who follow you as a leader. Now, finally, it generates solutions that are revolutionary, not just incremental. So what does this mean? It means that you have a problem and there's a solution. Now, the solution does not meet the needs of the people at that particular point in time, but you are thinking that let it be an incremental process where you keep repeating the same thing over and over again with the hope that in the end, the solution becomes what solution that people need. We are saying that when you pass the solution process through design thinking, it helps you build revolutionary products or solutions, not just incremental. So that's one key thing that design thinking gives us as entrepreneurs or leaders. Next one. So if you look on the screen, these are two examples of products that we will talk about. Now let's look at the first one, the tomato ketchup, the Heinz ketchup. The first is a glass with the sauce in. The second is a rubber with the sauce in. Now, if you know the brand Heinz, it's a German brand, very popular German brand. I think they are the market leaders for producing ketchup and I think mayonnaise. Now, the first product used to be how the product was packaged and brought to the market. Now, tomato ketchup is a solution that is on the market for people who want to consume something that probably wouldn't want to use pepper or something like that. Now, the focus of this discussion is not even about the ketchup, it's about the way the product was launched on the market. So the first one was a glass. Now, I would want to ask the question to the house. If you ever bought this particular product with a glass, what do you think were the impediments in having to use that particular product in the way it was packaged on the market? The first one, what were the impediments for you if you have ever used, or looking at the picture with the sauce in the glass as it is, what do you think would be an impediment to you as an end user of this particular product? Anybody else, anybody can share their experiences for me.
Okay, for me, I think the glass you can press it.
You can do what?
You can press it. Excuse
You cannot press it.
Yeah, to get.
Okay, you cannot press it. Okay, so it means that there's going to be like fragments of the sauce still left in the glass, even after you feel that you've used it finished. So it's not value for optimum use. Okay, you cannot press it. That's good. Anybody else? Mary Magdalene. Anybody else with another opinion of what they can see on the screen?
I think the glass one, it can break as compared to
It can break. Okay, so that's another defect. So the glass can break and you lose the content of whatever you want to pour. All right. And one final thought, then we move on. Okay, so the exposition by Ernest isn't wrong. So we are saying that if you look at the first design that was released on the market, the product itself is top notch. As I said, it's the market leader for producing whatever they're producing. So top notch product, but the way and manner in which the product was delivered to be used by customers, the feedback on the market was that customers were not able to use the product in the way it was packaged. So there was a defect on the packaging. Now, this is an investment for a company. Now, Heinz is very big. So in recalling these products from the shelf to factory, they will lose a lot of money, but I'm not sure they'll lose so much money that can cripple them. But as a startup or as a young business, you might not have the luxury to go through this mistake of releasing a product and then having to recall the product. Now they have to recall the glass product and bring back another, which is what? The rubber one, as you can see on the other side. This could have been prevented if the team responsible for designing the product had understood exactly what the use process would have been for an average user. So we talked about design thinking helping us to launch products that are revolutionary, number one, and also launch products that would test the efficacy on the market. The goal for the explanation in this context, what I'm trying to say is that if you are an entrepreneur and at a very young stage or an early business, let's use the context of Ghana. You are a business in Ghana and you have to recall over thousands of products in the market. I'm not sure how many businesses can survive that. This company is big, and so they can swallow those things. But you do not have to wait till you reach that state or level where there is so much mistake on a product that you have to recall. If you had passed through the processes of iterations, of defining, of scoping, of prototyping, we are saying that this could have been something that would have come across on those journeys where the product team would find out that, okay, if we test this amongst ourselves or with a sample space, this is the feedback from the sample space before we launch on the market. Do you get it? Now, there was no room for that particular project. And so they had to launch a full project, come back and do iterations or recall the project. We are saying that this particular mistake could have been reverted under the concept of design thinking. And as the next slide. Now, another way we can look at problems using design flaws and design thinking. So let's look at the WC, the one in the second frame. And I think it's a very old type. Now we've gone ahead to have ones that you can even use your hand gestures and then the water would flash. Some of them you have to press the button and all those things. But look at what we have in the picture. Look at it very carefully. And as a student of design or as a critical user, I'm sure we all use this facility. What do you think are the design flaws with this particular product? Look at it very critically. Anybody can just shoot their opinion. Look at it. Without even putting into context the design thinking or anything, this is normal design we use in our homes. Now, if you look at this image critically, what do you think are the defects of this particular product?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so I can say that the handle spoils quickly.
It spoils
The handle,
quickly. Okay.
yeah, the handle which you use for the flashing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it spoils so quickly.
Okay. Anybody else? That's a very good point.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please, as compared to the picture that I'm seeing right now, the position where they have placed the handle, I think it will be very difficult when you want to flash.
Very good.
Yes, please.
Very good. Any other person? There's one last thing we can talk about, so I want to give the chance to someone to say it. Okay, so the first person said the handle spoils quickly, which is a fact. because you have to apply pressure. And imagine this is in a public space, and you have almost 30 people using it in a day. So 30 times the number of people who comes in to apply pressure, the knob inside can easily get loosened. And so even though in the state in which it is useful, but it's a flaw that could have been worked on. The second person said that the location of the knob at where it is makes it difficult for people to use. We know we have over 90% of the world who are right-handed. So that's a design flaw. The other thing is health-wise, how many people would go clean their hands and come back before pressing the knob? I doubt. So from that place straight, we all press. Now, this could have been averted. This is probably could have been mechanical, could have or electronical, could have just been a knob where you press without having to use a particular one. Now, we are saying that with time, this design was able to undergo iteration. So there are current releases of this particular product where you go to the market and you can get the ones where you can press your hand. What we are saying is that it took a longer time for those iterations to come on board. And remember that in the design thinking flow that I discussed early on, iteration is part of the four things that I discovered. I made mention of. So in the discovery, in the defining, in the iteration, in the prototyping, this particular product would have come fresh with all the input without having to undergo this one where you have to press, or you have to press the knob before you can get, and even the location of where the knob is located. So this is a particular design flaw. There are several design flaws. Let's look at the other one, which is a door. How do you open? Is there any flaw with what you've seen? Now, the essence of this discussion is to tell you that sometimes there are solutions that we actually bring on board that would have to undergo a lot of iterations that come with certain cost elements. And also, the solutions are not revolutionary, it is incremental. So people will be using them even though it does not serve the best scenario in terms of the options they have, but they would have to stick with it for an incremental use so that at the end there's going to be a refinement of that particular solution to get the final thing they want. So we've been using this thing for some time now, and now we have an incremental solution that has the button to press. We are saying that if you undergo all the things that are required of everybody, whether you are designing a product as a leader or whatever it is, it gives you the perspective to do market study. And that market study gives you to build using the end user's input into whatever you are going to release. You don't have to release and then get feedback that, okay, what you have does not fit for market. It is expensive, and also it also elongates solutions for users. So design thinking would help you to avoid the corner of releasing a product or a solution that does not make market fit solution for your end users. So it's always advisable that please let's get market feedback. Let's get feedback from whatever we are building, from whatever solution that is on before we release. So these are typical things that happens. And these things I'm showing you are not imaginations. They are actual products that we have on the market. And these are the discussions that are going around its usage, and it is real. And it's next one. So what problem are you trying to solve? Please go ahead. So the 4 key things that we are talking about, we are now trying to now delve into the actual design thinking. So the first thing is discovery. Discovery. You cannot build without discovering. You cannot build without trying to understand what the problem is. And in discovery, there's something we call empathy. empathy is a normal English word, but in design thinking, it has different scope of meaning. So what does empathy mean? Empathy means that every solution must be built from the perspective of end users. Simple. Now, capacity to place oneself in another person's position, feel or understand what they're experiencing. So imagine that you are an entrepreneur. You are not the customer for your product. And that's what many people fail to understand. That even though you are at a point you are going to use the product, you are building for the bigger market. So first of all, you need to be empathetic. Try to understand, if a user of my product, what are the things that are hindering them in terms of the problems, and how would this product become a solution to that problem? So in that particular process, whatever you are building becomes empathetic towards the needs of the end user. So I keep on saying that you are not a customer for the product. You are a leader. The solution is not for you. It is for those who you lead. Even though at a point you also use the solution, make sure that you have the buy-in of the bigger group to which you lead. You have the buy-in of the bigger end user. In that way, you become empathetic towards building a product that is useful for the market. Now, in summary, for empathy, we are saying that be the user, do what they should be doing, observe other users, and talk to them to understand their problem. And let's move on. Now, another thing to understand under the discovery is the act of unlearning. Now, there's something we call in English dogma. If they say you are dogmatic in a particular thing of thinking, it means that you are so entrenched that you don't want to accept new things. So let's say that, you know, in physics and in chemistry, in most of these sciences, you know that there are theories that have updates. Like there can be a formula for a theory, and then you hear that, okay, there's a discovery to the theory, so there's an update on that particular theory. Then there's you in the class and said, okay, for me, I'm holding on to the old knowledge. Whether there's a new knowledge or not, I don't care. That is dogmatism. So you are so entrenched in your way of thinking that you don't want to accept new knowledge. Now, in doing that, it becomes problematic if you want to design anything for people you lead or anything for people to use your product. You have to accept that there is a concept of unlearning things that you think were the solution. But after discovery, those things might not necessarily be solutions to the market. So be free to unlearn and take on new knowledge. Don't be dogmatic in your knowledge. Be fluid. Now, we said the more I know how much more there is that I don't know. So there is a fountain of knowledge available to you, but unlearning can give you the concept to know that there's not a lot that has to be learned because you are not aware. So what we know that we don't know, and what we don't know that we don't know. So we should be ready to undergo the concept of unlearning if there's new knowledge to prove that whatever we've learned in the past is not relevant. And next. Then so under discovery as well, we have innovation. So that's one common word we are all accustomed to. And when we talk about innovation, a lot of people think that it is a whole mechanical or scientific process that has to undergo. Innovation is doing things in a much more seamless way than you come to meet it. So innovation can be an existing knowledge, an existing solution, but you've been able to refine the process that gives you seamless outcomes. So innovation comes from what we don't know. New things emerge from there. So in innovation, there is a concept of insight, having insight to better the process of something you're already accustomed to. seamless outcome for all our processes. That's innovation. Tapping into the unknown. The three principles we are talking about is, now you need to understand that before you can take in new knowledge, you need to understand that there's a whole world of unknown. And you have to tap into that unknown. To be able to do that, you need to have humility, be open, and then also be curious. That's the three key things that you need to understand if you want to tap into the unknown. Next one. Now, another way to discover is interviews. Now, how do I know exactly what people are thinking? Yes, I am empathetic. I open up myself to understand their problems. Number two, I am innovative. I open up myself to take new knowledge. Now, but how do you get the actual information from all those processes? Interview. What it means is that there's always a discovery. And how can you discover? By going through either an open-ended or closed-ended interview, or taking a sample space. Now, in interviews, there's something we call the purposive interview. What it means is that you are doing that particular interview for a purpose that is relevant to whatever you are building. So, do the users know exactly what they need? That's one question. Number two, understand what is behind what users are saying. So the users could be saying that, okay, we need this, we do this, what we think that are the, so do you understand what they are saying? And do you think they need, or they know what exactly they need? So there's a whole thing of interview process that you have to undergo. Now, the key thing is that interview sets the tone for us to gather information that can complete the design thinking process. We keep talking about build from the perspective of the end user. How can you build? The way you can build is taking information from interviews. It's the interview that gives you the mindset of the end users. Next one. Next one. So we've undergone three key things under discovery. Now let's look at define. Ernest, how do you define? Now, this is a picture. Ernest, yeah, good. This is a picture. Now, in definition, the key thing is that we all define problems from differently. Whatever we see as problems might not be the same across board if you are supposed to interview everyone. So look at this picture very clearly. Now you have an animal standing there, and each of the people are looking at it from their own perspective. So if you ask them to define what they are seeing, someone says this is a wall. Someone says this is a rope. Someone says this is a fan, it's a spear, it's a tree, it's a snake. So based on what they are standing, that scope helps them to define whatever they think is a problem. So do you have an idea of the bigger picture? I'm sure if they had stepped back to look at the animal in its totality, their definition would have been different, right? So this picture clearly tells you how we look at problems, and the place we are standing, the biases available to us, our scope of observation, and all those things are things that actually influences us to define a problem. So definition is a very key component of defining or having to understand the mindset of the problem. If you don't define a problem, building would not fit. Next. So once you're able to define the problem, you'd have to unpack. So I'm building a website where people can, let's say, order wache in Accra. So that's your solution, right? Because if people don't have time to come and queue at wache basis. So that's you think that the solution to that is to build a website or an application where they can order the wache online. That's fine. Now, there needs to be a whole lot of unpacking to be able to make sense of the idea you have of building a platform for wache business. Now, unpacking comes in different ways. How would the people, what's the service? Who pays for what? Location, the tech process. What are we building with? Is this, do we have available data to feed in to see that this is actually a market problem? you need to unpack the whole solution. So after you define the problem, unpacking helps you to define exactly what exactly do we think we are building. And it happens in several ways. Clustering, you put ideas together on sticky notes, you cluster the likely items, you space the outliers. Those are some of the things that we need to do for unpacking. And you make sense of the data. So the numbers, how many people are we building for? Who are the outliers? Are the ideas surprising? Do you have contradictions to what you want to build? So unpacking gives us a whole room to think through and make sense of the definition of the problem we've defined. And let's move on. Now you have to reframe. So reframing is what's the sum of plus and 5? What two numbers add up to 10? Now these are examples, right? Now what reframing does is it gives you the chance to play what we call the devil's advocate. So you are trying to now reframe the problem and ask yourself the hard questions. So insight from the problem, and once you've reframed and played the devil's advocate, the insight would now come out for you. So you're making insight from the problem statement. So that's what define of a problem does. So when you go through all this in clustering, reframing, then you build insight from your problem. And that insight is leading you to have a solution that is useful at the end. Now, point of view. So how might we? It helps you to reframe the problem statement or allow for ideation. How might we get blah, blah, blah? So point of view, you can now sit down from your classroom process, from the reframing process to understand what would be the point of view from this other person. So what might be, that's the other question you'll be asking. What might be X? What might be Y? And there's next one. Now, after you go through the definition of the problem, you would come to the point where we are talking about ideation. So how do you ideate? And let's move on. Move to ideation. Good. So in ideation is that you have at least built or cluster the problem to a point where you've defined the data that is useful and accurate to you, and you'd want to build or test that particular data with a select group or a sample size. So creative freedom exercise. Move on, Ernest. So how do you ideate the guidelines? We can either do a stand-up. Stand-up is a quick meeting of people in your team that you put together to brainstorm. So that's a stand-up. You can capture everything. You can go for quantity. There's no bad idea. So in ideating guidelines, we are saying that once you want to ideate, know that the end, you are looking for information from that process. So you don't start clustering and say, this is bad, this is good. You have to gather everything, and at the end, the data would help you to analyze. So in ideation, we are saying that capture everything and always go for whatever quantity there is to go for. Make sure you represent the sample space as much as you can. And there's no bad or right idea from the beginning. So there are a lot of ways to ideate. It can be through hackathons, it can be through open conversations, it can be through debate. And the processes for all these things gives you all that things that you might not capture in the discovery or the defining. Ideation gives you all those other perspectives. Now, analysis. So you're analyzing how to choose your ideas among others. Classroom, we talk about that framework. Is it feasible? Is it innovative? Is it most likely to delight customers? Once you are ideating, these are the 3 key things that you need to understand or make sure that you test the ideas with: feasibility, innovation, and then customer delight. And let's move on. Now, Then after the ideation process, you prototype and test. And this leads you to the finality of whatever you want to do. So prototyping, as we said, every sample, model, or release of a product built to test the concept or process. So a prototype is not the final version. In the developer world, we call it the beta version. So you are testing a particular version of the product to see how it functions, so that you don't wait to release the final one and now get feedback to discard the entire idea. So we have the rapid prototyping. And how do you go about it? The 4 ways would be the model, act it, wireframe, and the diagram. So for diagram, we are using for processes, for wireframe, for digital products, for act it, for services, and for model, for physical products. So those are the key 4 ways by which you can prototype. So for rapid prototyping, we are saying that you can either be launching a service, you can be launching a product, you can be launching a digital product. So depending on the product you are launching, you choose between which are the prototyping types that you want to use. And let's move on. So once you are prototyping, you are also testing. So why are we testing? We are testing because we are not testing because we love our own ideas or we are our users. No, we are testing because we want to get the right frame of idea from the people who we are saying are our end users. So you are testing because you want the people who are your prospective
Hello, Mr. Courage. I think it's a network challenge. Hello, guys. Please, he's joining shortly. Okay, so please let's kindly bear with him. I think it's on the last 2 slides. Yeah, thanks.
So I said we shouldn't over-explain. There's no need for us to over-explain. And the best thing for us is to leave the product to the end users and let them explain or give you feedback that will be relevant to whatever you want to build. And let's move on. So that's testing. And testing guidelines, let go of your ego. Do not over-explain. Observe. Ask why. Look out for what doesn't work. Test with at least 5 users in each customer segment. Move on, Ernest. So what's next for you? Now, after we've gone through all these other processes of discover, definition, ideation, testing, and prototyping. Now you have a miniature version of whatever you want to do. You have a miniature solution. So now you can go on to build a prototype. You can go on to pitch to investors or founders. You can build a business model around whatever you've done, and then you can launch on the market. So you build your product, pitch to investors, have a model, and then now go to market. So this would be the things that you have to consider after you go through the 4 key things. Now you undergo these other 4 ones, and then that really gives you access to market. Now we are saying that if you're able to go through all these key things, then it means that you've been able to break and define your solution using the test or the litmus test for design thinking. And this is what we need to do as leaders or entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Wow. That was very brilliant, and a lot were shared. So then now we are opening the forum for questions. So please, if you have any question, kindly raise up your hand and ask. But
So I think I did more time than I said I would do. I've done almost 45 minutes.
Yeah, so I think we would take few questions, maybe 2 or 3, and then we can close it off. Thank you. So please, if you have any question, you can raise up your hands and just speak. Thanks.
Okay.
I think there are no questions coming forth. So I'm coming, let me stop sharing my screen. So there are no questions coming forth. So I presume that everything has been understood. Yeah, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. But
Thank
then I
you
want
for
to, yeah, so I really want to say a very big thank you to you, Mr. Asase, and I'm very happy for the knowledge being shared and how you took your time to explain it into details for us. It was very, very impressive. And as global leaders of change, we want to say a very big thank you together with the participants. And I also like to thank the participants as well for being patient due to our technical challenges, and also for staying with us through that. Yeah, so Mr. Asase, thank you so much. And we would like to have you in person in our next session. And I would also like to say a very good evening to all participants who joined. And I will share the recording as well, so that you can listen and maybe make your own notes or maybe deduce your insights for your own personal development. Yeah, so thank you, and please do have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, and thank you to the global leaders of change. I'm grateful for the time.
Thank you, boss.
All right.